Okay, so this is the video for Quack Volume 3, Set 2, and this is part 2 of the video, and this is going over 5 rules to remember when using apostrophes. Okay, very first rule, and this is probably the most obvious rule, is that we use apostrophes to form contractions. So there's some contractions here in the table on the left-hand side. Who's, missing a coat. Who's, obviously W-H-O apostrophe S, stands for who is. It's a big dog. It stands for it is. You're a great artist. Y-O-U apostrophe R-E, standing for you are. There's the book. There is. They're here. They are here. Something that you want to remember is that possessive pronouns do not have apostrophes. So if you are referring to the owner of the coat, whose coat is this, you would not use an apostrophe in that. You do not want it to say, who is coat is this. Same thing, we often confuse its I-T-S with its I-T apostrophe S. If you're showing possession, you do not use apostrophe in its. So the dog is in its house, does not need an apostrophe. Same thing if you're talking about paintings, your paintings, that's Y-O-U-R. I really hate when people confuse the versions of your. Those books are theirs, not ours. Their books are here, yours are there, that coat is hers, that jacket is his. Those are all possessive pronouns and therefore do not need contractions. Okay, so some example sentences. It's not a big deal if Mrs. Hayes gesticulates when speaking. If she goes silent, the audience should worry. Okay, obviously it's in that sentence stands for it is. And you can kind of pause the video and read through the remaining examples on your own if you would like. Our second rule is that we use apostrophes to show single ownership of someone or something by another person or thing. So if a person's name ends in S, that's where it kind of gets tricky, right? You obviously know that you can use apostrophes to show ownership, but sometimes we don't know what to do when those names do end in S, like Jones or Hayes or Jesus, something like that. So if the person is singular, you're going to go ahead and add an apostrophe S. So if you are talking about Mr. Jones's golf clubs, Mr. Jones is one person, so it's singular, so you would add an apostrophe S if you're talking about his golf clubs. Same thing if you're talking about Mrs. Hayes's classroom, okay? Hayes, Mrs. Hayes is one person, so she gets an apostrophe S in talking about her classroom. If you're talking about plural possession, you're going to make the noun plural first and then add the apostrophe. Okay, so that comes when mainly when you're talking about family. So like the Joneses' house, that's not just one person, that's a family. So you would go ahead and make Jones, J-O-N-E-S, plural by adding an E-S on the end, and then add that apostrophe after that to show possession of the house. Same thing if you're talking about the Hastings car, you would make that plural, Hastings's, apostrophe, and then talking about the car. The only real exception to this, which is kind of strange, is that if they are the names of biblical or historical people, then you do not make it plural first. You go ahead and put that apostrophe just on the singular version of the name. So like Jesus, teachings, you do not need an apostrophe S there. You just need the apostrophe. Same with Zeus, priest. Okay, you would just need Z-E-U-S apostrophe, not apostrophe S. Okay, so rule number 3, if a noun refers to more than one person or thing, apostrophes are used to show shared possession. Okay, so that's kind of like what we were just talking about with the families. So if you were talking about multiple CEOs and they had perks, you would say the CEO's perks, C-E-O-S apostrophe perks, because those perks are shared by 2 or more CEOs. Same thing, players' pride, it's talking about multiple players, so you go ahead and use the plural form of players and put the apostrophe at the end. Boys' games, programmers' books, singers' voices. Okay, some other examples here. Teams, lions, witches, gases, babies, and horses. Pause and read these sentences if you would like. And rule number 4, if you need to write a possessive version of compound nouns, you have to ask yourself if the people are possessing the same item or different items. Okay, so here's kind of what we mean by that. If the unit is possessing the same item, then you can just add apostrophe S to the last person in the unit. So if you were talking about your mom and dad's marriage, it's obviously a marriage that belongs to both your mom and your dad. So you can go ahead and just add the apostrophe S to the last person, so that would be dad's in this case. You wouldn't need to say mom's and dad's marriage because they're sharing the item together. But if the unit possesses different items, then you need to add apostrophe S to each person in the unit. So mom's and dad's siblings, in that case, each person, mom and dad, would both need an apostrophe S because they don't have the same siblings, hopefully. Okay, so here's some other examples with Tom and Katie, Oprah and Gail's, Abbott and Costello's, Barack and Hillary Clinton's, Jack and Jill's, Dr. St. Pierre and Mr. Devlin's. Okay, so feel free to pause this and see some additional examples if you would like. And our last rule is that to show possession with indefinite nouns, we need to add apostrophe S to the last word. So indefinite nouns is talking about a group of people or things that maybe you aren't entirely sure how many. So like everyone, anyone, someone, things like that. You're not exactly sure what's being talked about. So you would add an apostrophe S to those words. So for example, I presume this is nobody's paper airplane. Nobody gets the singular version with an apostrophe S. It is best that one's thoughts converge prior to action. Same thing, one gets an apostrophe S. Okay, and feel free to read those last examples. Okay, that has concluded part 2 of the video for Quack Volume 3 Set 2, which was the notes and 5 rules on how to use apostrophes.